Hi everybody and welcome back to my modeling channel. So today we're gonna build a Cessna 185 Skywagon on a scale of 1/72, and so let's open the box and see what we have inside. So it comes out with a nice plastic sheet and a couple of sprues and some decals. So the first and the unique sprue basically is the aircraft itself. Don't know if you can see from here, but we have a nice fine engravement for the whole kit. So the kit is composed, as you can see, with two different fuselage halves. The wing is in one part, then you have the tail, two different types of tail depending on the model you want to build. The horizontal stabilizer, and you have the possibility of doing a little bit more details on the wheels, as those are two parts, and you have the brake unit, which this side doesn't have. It's a tail dragger, which is located here, and the cockpit is here with the seats. You don't have a lot of options and a lot of details, but I'm sure we're going to be able to manage something very nice. Then we move on to the clear part. As you can see, it's pretty straightforward. You have the windshield and all the passenger windows on that kit. So let's move on to the instruction sheet. It's an A4 format. So you have the kit description, you have what you have to do basically, you have a little bit of extra on the instrument panel to guide you what you have to go through, and all the instruction sheets. Actually, they explain you how to make your a little bit more extra things, which is basically your seat belt and other things. But I'm sure we're going to be able to manage some good stuff on that aircraft. Then you have all the rest, of course. Some have some flares, but that's from Variant Air Force, which is not what we are going to do. And then the antennas, the different type of tails. And then we're going to move on to the painting options. Basically all the instructions are on the back of the model, the back of the box. So you have an options for a Canadian Polar Bear company, you have a British and a French registration. Personally, I'm gonna go for this one because I like the colorful liveries, as you know that. So we're gonna move on now to the decal sheets, and the decals are in very nice conditions. You have basically the possibility of doing both of the, you have including in the decals basically the instrument panel and the seat belt for the pilot seat, and of course all the other options and the tail marking for the different livery you'd like to do. So enough of talking, and let's enjoy that little kit. So we're gonna start this build by preparing the interior of the aircraft. So initially I will have to do a little bit of adjustment on the fuselage. Then I will prepare the wall, the floor and the seat, passenger seat and the pilot seat. Then we're gonna glue them to the floor. We'll now paint our seat with a brown color to give a simile of leather, and I will do basically all 4 seats for that. I saw that on some of those aircraft back in the north, sometimes there is some wood structure inside the plane, just for to protect basically the aircraft cell from the different package that they have. Then after we paint that, it starts to paint the dashboard with all the instrument panel, And then I will do some adjustment. There was a little bit too much plastic was released basically on the window. So what I will do after that, I will put the window in their frames, and of course I will glue them all together. The next step now will be to use a decal as on the instrument panel with all the instruments. This way I have a pretty good result, and I will also use a decal, basically some decals, to do the seat belt and the harness on the seats. And after that, of course, I will use a decal solution that will help to fix all these together. We will now glue the yoke to the instrument panel, and then we'll have to paint them in black color, and therefore we'll have a more realistic cockpit. I will now fix the interior inside the fuselage. So initially I will put the floor and the seats, and then see how it is working, basically see the adjustment on the other part of the fuselage initially, and then I will fix the instrument panel as well. There will be a little bit of adjustment to do as well on that part. So I will also use some accent panel lines on those seats, and that will give me more 3D effect or a more realistic texture on the aircraft. Now I will cover the windows. So basically I will use some masking tape, and using a toothpick I will get all the contour of those windows, and that will allow me to have those tapes while I will be painting the overall fuselage later on in the build. Now that we finish the masking tape over the windows, we're gonna close basically the fuselage all together, and I did all the adjustment, the necessary adjustment. So I will use most probably some clamps on the front and on the back to let the glue basically cure, and I will also use some extra thin glue for some parts. Then what we will do, we'll prepare basically the nose, basically the air intake, and there is a little bit of a fiddling. Then we're gonna glue it on the aircraft, and of course once this is done and dried, we will have to do a little bit of putting. But initially now I have to prepare the wings, and for this of course there is a little bit of a preparation on the leading edge, as there is some extra plastic coming from the mold. So we will now close all the gaps with some putty, initially on the engines and around the air intake as well, and of course the fuselage on the junction between both parts. Once it is all dried, it's time to remove the extra putty, and then we'll use some sandpaper. In this case I'm using a 600 grit with some water, and that gives a very nice and decent result overall the whole aircraft. So it's time now to close basically the cockpit, and I realized that the glare shield or the dashboard was a little bit too large, so I have to do some adjustment, and I'll have to cut some part of it very discreetly basically. Then we can't see too much of that once the build is finished. And of course there will be some part of the paint will be missing, so I will have to do some paint touch up once the part is adjusted. And then of course once this is done, we'll be able to close the windscreen directly on the aircraft. It's now time to put the wings on the fuselage, and we're gonna also check the dihedra and make sure that all the parts are done correctly. And I have to say that I had a little bit of adjustment to make sure that I had the proper dihedra for the model. Then we're gonna start working on the tail. For the tail was not a big thing. Basically there was a little bit of adjustment on the bottom to make sure that everything was done the right way. Then of course I had to rescribe the hole basically where I could fix the tail into the fuselage. And then of course there was some a little bit of rescribing work, especially for the panel lines were around the tail, to make sure that I'll be able to get a nice touch and finish. So for this I use a razor blade saw and then a rescribing tool later on to just get the holes and the panel lines at the proper shape. So after removing all the gaps, now we're gonna fix our horizontal stabilizer or the elevator. And so for this, standard glue basically, and then we're gonna put the attach of the wings to the fuselage as well. And this will be a quite easy task, a little bit of fiddling of course, but pretty easy work to do so far. We'll now prepare some masking tape for the windscreen as we're getting closer to the paint booth. So I just want to make sure that all the paint will be done nicely, and so we don't want anything basically on our window, so we'll have to do the proper masking technique. And basically it's standard Tamiya tape, and I use a razor blade. It's not a razor blade, it's a scalpel blade basically, and that allows us to precision basically on those tapes. And then there will be a little bit of course of filling gaps basically, and that's on the back of the elevator. Then we're gonna do this, of course, wait until it's ready, and then we'll be able to sand it down. There will be also some a little bit of drilling ahead for the gear down, basically the gear strut. After removing the extra putty, we're gonna work now on the tail wheel, and just a little bit of adjustment, then we're gonna glue it very simply on the tail of the aircraft, let it cure, and then we'll be ready to join the paint booth. So for the paint booth, what I decided as the red color, basically we have a shiny red color, and for this I decided to paint to do a primer basically, and I use a white color. The wingtips will remain in white color. That's why it was the easiest way to do it, instead of painting just the wingtip in white. I thought the result would be far better, and you will see when we start putting the layer of red, this will work as a charm. I have to say that the color and the result were really beyond expectation. If I would have used a gray color, it wouldn't have been that nice. So we are now putting the masking tape for the wingtip, and those one will remain in white. Then the overall fuselage will be in a red, Tamiya red, shiny or bright red. And I have to say that when you see the result, the idea of having a primer basically in white was the perfect fit. The results are very nice toward the end, and you will see that a little bit later on. We are now going to work on the wheels. Now we're painting basically with iron, dark iron color. I'm painting the brake unit of this, and then of course we're trying to paint the cylinder, the head of cylinders who are hidden on the nose. After that we'll start to decal, and I choose basically that Arctic or Air Arctic company with a polar bear, as I like normally colorful livery. So this is a Canadian company, and everything is written with the Inuit language with their signs, and the title will be on the right side in English. And so not much to say. The decal were quite easy to handle, a little bit of extra work because they are very thin, so a little bit of extra water, but nothing too difficult basically. So after finishing decaling, we're gonna start painting and do the touch-up. So now we're gonna paint the wheel on the tail drag, and then do the little touch-up on our main wheels. And after that, we'll fix them directly on the aircraft. We'll add a couple of antennas, and then the plane will be ready for display. So this is the final result of that Cessna 185 Sky Wagon. I hope you enjoy that build with me. I have to say that it was a really nice, enjoyable build. And if you did so, please give me a thumbs up, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you soon for another build review and another build. Thank you for watching.